CAT set a GDP growth forecast of 3.8% for Zimbabwe in 2023. Now, the Minister of Finance says there is a probability of an upward revision of the GDP matrix for Zimbabwe in 2023, bolstered by the agriculture and mining sectors.
Colleagues, let me just highlight that we expect a growth this year of at least 3.8%. I'm very pleased with what I'm seeing in the agricultural sector. That's going to give us a good uplift beyond what we had anticipated. And also the continued strong performance from industry. Easily 70% of the goods on our shelves are domestic. That shows that real value addition is happening. It is happening. Thank you very much for excellent performance there. The investment in the mining sector, we're not even budgeted for inflows from the exports of lithium and other minerals. So that also should push up our expected growth this year beyond 3.9%. The tourism sector continues to perform. You cannot get a room easily over the weekend in any major tourism destination within the country. So that tells you the sector is doing very well, and all of this augurs well for our outlook. So don't be surprised to hear me upgrade our GDP growth formally. I already signaled this beyond the 3.8% that we focused at.
Our ZTN correspondent Eben Mabunda joins us to shed light on the minister's remarks.
Well, good evening. There, of course, the minister making it very clear that there is an upward revision from the 3.8% target that had been set for 2023. This against a 2021 outturn of 8.4% and a 3.4% outturn in 2022. Now, of course, this comes on the back of growth in the various sectors, of course, in the agricultural sector, where it is that the annual cereal production for the 2022-2023 agricultural season is expected to come in at 2.5 million metric tons against a national requirement of 1.8 million metric tons, particularly where the maize subsector is concerned. An output of about 2.3 million is actually expected in that particular regard, a growth of about 55 to 58% according to the official statistics. But also important, the tourism sector, where it is that we are seeing a recovery in the global tourism sector, in the regional tourism sector, and of course that having a trickle-down effect in as far as the tourism sector of Zimbabwe, with an increase in regional tourism, an increase in terms of international arrivals into the country. Of note as well would be the recovery that we're seeing taking place in the mining sector. This, of course, coming on the back of the strengthening prices of commodities on the global markets. Of note as well to talk about would be the manufacturing sector, which despite the power issues that had actually come in the way of its performance, we had actually seen recovery over the past 2 years as the figure sailed above 55%. It remains to be seen with the increase in terms of the power production that is now being generated, that we saw recovering during the course of the week, whether this would have a material impact in as far as the matrix for the manufacturing sector of the country.
So how important is the mining sector to the growth of the overall economy?
Well, the mining sector would pretty much form the linchpin of the Zimbabwean economy, accounting for about 12% of the GDP. But crucial to the matrix is how it is that it is accounted for over 60% of the country's export earnings, at least over the past 5 years. In 2022, it's contributed about 68% to Zimbabwe's GDP, with the gold subsector contributing over $2 billion United States dollars in terms of the foreign currency earnings for the country. commodity. So yes, indeed, this is a crucial sector of the Zimbabwean overall economy. But of note is the fact that we're seeing the firming up in terms of the prices of commodities. Starting with gold, there is all of a sudden an increase in terms of the demand for that particular mineral across the world. In 2022, we saw central banks across the world demanding more in terms of gold, as they are now seeking to keep more gold in terms of their reserves across the world. And also you look at other minerals, you look at nickel, you look at various other minerals, platinum group metals. We're also seeing an increase in terms of the demand for the BGM, specifically where platinum is actually concerned, where it is that in line with the green revolution, this is actually expected to result in increased demand for the particular metal, as of course automakers across the world are looking to reduce their carbon emissions. So yes, indeed, we're seeing a firming up in terms of the prices of commodities across the world, particularly where the mineral commodities are actually concerned at a global scale.
Thank you, Eben, for that report. Well, will the projections stand against various factors at play? And what is the position of business? Do they agree with Treasury's projections? The following report looks at how local companies have been resilient and growing against all odds.
Thinking outside the box, that perhaps describes some of Zimbabwe's big companies' initiatives. Dairy Board's introduction of a drink named after the baobab tree, a product that has already won awards, could be a good example.
We are taking that product into South Africa, into Zambia, into Botswana.
But is that all to Dairy Board's survival and resilience?
The other key thing that has also made us survive is diversification of our product portfolio. From a predominantly milk company, we now have 70% of our products very less dependent on milk.
This is just one subsector. Industry and Commerce Minister Sekai Nzenza says they are to pay attention to detail to support the country's economic growth agenda.
We have therefore had to look at sector by sector and develop strategies to increase local manufacturing, and thus enabling the consumer to access locally made goods as opposed to consuming only those that are being imported.
She highlights some of the key sectors from other ministries they engaged to achieve set goals.
As a result, we've created much stronger linkages with the Ministry of Agriculture through the agro-processing, and of course, Ministry of Mines, looking at value addition of minerals.
Finance and Economic Development Minister Mtholi Ncube believes a manufacturing industry is doing well to support the project of economic growth.
At least 3.8%. I'm very pleased with what I'm seeing in the agricultural sector. That's going to give us a good uplift beyond what we had anticipated. And also the continued strong performance from industry. Easily 70% of the goods on our shelves are domestic. That shows that real value addition is happening.
ZTN will be an opportunity for companies to make more breakthroughs. And the hope is that with more trade, the country can achieve a trade surplus and contribute more to economic growth. For ZTN Prime, I'm Govech Kada.